Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge and watched the massive alien ship grow larger on the main screen. The vessel looked like it was made of pure crystal, catching starlight and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. That hurt to look at for too long. After 6 months of deep space exploration, his crew had finally found what they came looking for: intelligent alien life. "They're responding to our signals," said Ben Carter from the communications station. The young officer had been working for 3 days straight to crack the alien language patterns. "I think they want to meet us face to face." Dr. Lisa Park moved closer to the captain's chair, her medical scanner already in hand. "Sir, we need to be careful about biological contamination. We have no idea what kind of diseases they might carry, or how our systems might react to each other." Morrison nodded but felt excitement building in his chest. Humanity had been searching the stars for over 200 years since leaving Earth. They had found dead worlds, empty space, and the ruins of civilizations that died out long ago, but never living, breathing aliens who wanted to talk. "Alex, what's your read on their weapons?" Morrison asked his security chief. Alex Rodriguez studied the tactical display with narrowed eyes. The former Marine had seen enough combat to know when something felt wrong, but even he had to admit the alien ship showed no obvious threat. "No energy signatures that match known weapon types, Captain. Their ship is big but doesn't seem designed for war. Lots of empty space inside, almost like a passenger vessel." The alien response came through the speakers in a voice that sounded like wind chimes mixed with broken glass. Carter worked his translation software and then looked up with surprise. "Captain, they're inviting us aboard their ship. They say they want to welcome us to this part of space and share knowledge between our peoples." Morrison felt his heart speed up. This was the moment that would change human history forever. "Dr. Park, how long do you need to prepare biological safety protocols?" "Give me 2 hours to set up proper quarantine procedures and medical scanning equipment," Park replied. "I want to make sure we can detect any harmful organisms before they become a problem." The next few hours passed quickly as the crew prepared for first contact. Morrison selected a small team to accompany him: Dr. Park for medical expertise, Carter for communication, Rodriguez for security, and engineer Rick Hayes in case they needed technical support. The rest of the crew would monitor from the ship and be ready to leave quickly if things went bad. When they finally docked with the alien vessel, Morrison was surprised by how warm and welcoming it felt inside. The crystal walls glowed with soft light, and the air smelled like flowers after rain. The aliens themselves were even more beautiful than their ship. Tall, graceful beings that looked like living sculptures made of clear gemstone. The alien leader introduced himself as Ambassador Veltar. He spoke through a translation device that made his voice sound almost human, though still with that strange musical quality. "Welcome, humans. We are honored to meet another thinking species in this vast emptiness of space." Dr. Park immediately began her medical scans while the others talked. The readings were fascinating. The aliens had a completely different biology from humans, but showed no signs of carrying dangerous diseases. Their body structure was unlike anything in Earth's databases. What surprised Morrison was how interested the aliens seemed in human biology. Veltar asked detailed questions about how human bodies worked, where important organs were located, and how humans dealt with injury and disease. He seemed particularly fascinated by the human heart and brain. "Your species is very different from ours," Veltar said, his crystal face somehow managing to show what looked like curiosity. "We would like to understand more about your physical form. Perhaps you could share your medical knowledge with us?" Dr. Park looked at Morrison, who nodded. It seemed like a reasonable request for peaceful aliens who were sharing their own technology. She uploaded comprehensive human medical data to their systems: detailed scans of human anatomy, organ placement, cardiovascular systems, and nervous system structures. The aliens studied the information with what seemed like intense interest. They asked many questions about which organs were most important for human survival, how much damage a human could take before dying, and whether humans had any biological weaknesses. "It is amazing how complex your bodies are," Veltar said. "So many different parts all working together. We are much simpler in our design." As the hours passed, Morrison began to feel more comfortable with their new alien friends. The Zephyrians, as they called themselves, offered to share their advanced technology in exchange for cultural and scientific knowledge. They seemed peaceful, intelligent, and genuinely interested in building a relationship with humanity. Carter worked with their communication experts to improve the translation systems. Hayes examined their engineering marvels and took detailed notes. Dr. Park continued her biological studies, amazed by how different yet sophisticated alien life could be. Only Rodriguez remained slightly uneasy, though he couldn't explain why. Something about the way the aliens looked at the humans reminded him of predators studying prey, but their behavior was perfectly friendly and welcoming. As the meeting ended, Veltar extended an invitation that made Morrison's chest swell with pride. "We would be honored if a human delegation would visit our home system. We can show you wonders beyond imagination and share knowledge that will benefit both our peoples." Morrison accepted immediately, not noticing the subtle way Veltar's crystal features seemed to shift into what might have been a smile. 3 weeks had passed since first contact, and the Zephyrian home system was even more beautiful than Morrison had imagined. Massive crystal structures floated in space around a brilliant blue star, connected by streams of light that pulsed like living veins. The shuttle Pathfinder carried the human delegation through this wonder, heading toward the largest crystal formation that served as the Zephyrian capital. Morrison sat in the pilot's seat next to Rodriguez, watching their destination grow larger. Behind them, Dr. Park was reviewing medical data while Engineer Hayes studied the alien technology they had been given to examine. Diplomat Claire Watson practiced pronunciation of Zephyrian words, preparing for the formal ceremonies ahead. "This is incredible," Watson said, looking out at the crystal cities. "Imagine what we could learn from a civilization this advanced. The cultural exchange alone could advance human knowledge by centuries." Rodriguez checked their security status for the 10th time in an hour. Something still felt wrong to him, but he couldn't point to anything specific. The Zephyrians had been nothing but helpful and welcoming. Their escort ships flew alongside Pathfinder in perfect formation, and their communications were full of excitement about the upcoming celebration. What Rodriguez didn't know was that deep inside the capital structure, Zephyrian combat specialists were making final preparations for mass murder. The human medical data had been studied by their greatest warriors and scientists. Every detail of human anatomy had been analyzed, measured, and turned into precise killing techniques. Commander Sekthar ran his crystal claws over the specialized weapons designed specifically for human elimination. The energy blades were calibrated to pierce human skin and destroy the single heart that kept humans alive. The focused beam weapons could collapse human lungs with surgical precision. The neural disruption devices would sever the spinal cord that controlled human movement. "The plan is perfect," Sekthar told his warriors. "Humans are even more fragile than most species we have eliminated. They have only one heart, located here in the center of their chest. Destroy it, and they die, instantly. They have only one brain, destroy it, and they cease to function. Their breathing system can be collapsed with minimal effort." The Zephyrian assassination cult had perfected these techniques over thousands of years. Every species they encountered had similar weaknesses: one central heart, one controlling brain, one primary breathing apparatus. The cult had eliminated 47 different civilizations using these same methods, and humans would be number 48. Ambassador Veltar watched the approaching human shuttle with satisfaction. The humans had been so eager to share their biological secrets, so trusting in their desire for peaceful contact. They had no idea they were flying into a carefully prepared trap. "Are all warriors in position?" Veltar asked through his communication crystal. "Yes, Ambassador," came Sekthar's reply. "We have studied the humans extensively. Captain Morrison's heart is located exactly 15.7 centimeters below his throat, protected only by bone and muscle. Dr. Park's brain can be accessed through the eye socket or the base of her skull. Security Chief Rodriguez has the typical human weakness in his spinal column at the neck." Veltar felt the predatory satisfaction that came with a perfect hunt. The humans would never see the attack coming. They trusted the Zephyrians completely, viewing them as peaceful explorers rather than the galaxy's most efficient killers. The human shuttle docked with the capital structure, and Morrison led his team through the airlock into what they believed was a celebration hall. The chamber was magnificent, with crystal walls that sang in harmony and floors that showed images of distant stars. Hundreds of Zephyrians had gathered to welcome the human visitors. Morrison felt proud as he looked around at the assembled aliens. This moment would be remembered forever as the beginning of a new era of cooperation between species. Dr. Park took readings of the alien gathering, while Hayes marveled at the technology that made the light show possible. "Welcome, friends from the stars," Veltar said, his translator making his voice warm and welcoming. "Today we celebrate the meeting of two great civilizations. Let us share food and knowledge as family." The ceremony began with traditional Zephyrian music that sounded like crystal wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Human and alien mingled together, sharing stories and exchanging gifts. Morrison presented Veltar with a sculpture made from earth marble, while the ambassador gave him a crystal that pulsed with inner light. Dr. Park found herself surrounded by Zephyrian scientists, eager to discuss biology and medicine. She shared information about human healing techniques while learning about alien regeneration abilities. The conversation was fascinating, though she noticed they kept asking about human vital points and organ placement. Hayes was equally occupied with Zephyrian engineers who wanted to understand human technology. They seemed particularly interested in human weapons and defensive systems, asking detailed questions about what could penetrate human armor and how much damage humans could survive. Rodriguez stood near the wall, watching the crowd but trying not to seem unfriendly. His military training made him automatically catalog escape routes and potential threats, but everything appeared normal. The aliens were genuinely excited about meeting humans, and their behavior showed no signs of deception. The evening progressed, Veltar called for attention. "My friends, we have prepared a special demonstration of Zephyrian culture. Please gather around the center of the chamber so all may see clearly." The humans moved forward eagerly, not noticing how the aliens positioned themselves in a perfect circle around them. Morrison stood in the center with his team, feeling honored to be given such a special welcome. "This is a traditional Zephyrian greeting for new species," Veltar announced. "It represents the moment when two civilizations become one family." What happened next took less than 3 seconds. Crystal warriors emerged from hidden positions throughout the chamber, moving with inhuman speed and precision. Sekthar himself struck Rodriguez directly in the chest, driving an energy blade through the exact center of where his heart should be. Another warrior hit Dr. Park with a focused beam that destroyed her left lung completely. Hayes took a blade to his spine that severed his spinal cord with surgical accuracy. Morrison felt a crystal claw tear through his side, rupturing his kidney and slicing deep into his liver. The Zephyrians stepped back, expecting to watch their victims collapse and die within moments. This was always the most satisfying part of an assassination, seeing the look of shock and confusion in their prey's eyes as life faded away. But instead of falling, Rodriguez drew his sidearm with a steady hand. Dr. Park coughed up blood but remained standing and alert. Hayes, though unable to feel his legs, immediately activated his emergency beacon. Morrison, bleeding heavily from his side, raised his own weapon and began shouting orders. Veltar stared in complete confusion as all 4 humans remained not only alive but actively fighting back. According to every biological law the Zephyrians knew, these humans should be dead. Dr. Park wiped blood from her mouth and looked at the crystal blade protruding from Rodriguez's chest with professional interest rather than horror. "Alex, don't move too much. The blade missed your main arteries and your heart is still pumping through collateral circulation. You'll live if we can control the bleeding." Rodriguez nodded and kept his weapon trained on the nearest Zephyrian warrior. The blade had gone clean through his chest, but somehow he felt more angry than hurt. "Doc, how bad is it really? You've got a punctured lung and some muscle damage, but your heart is fine," Park said while pulling emergency medical supplies from her kit. "The blade went between your ribs and missed everything vital. Humans can survive much worse than this." "Commander?" Sekthar stared in shock at the humans who should have been corpses, This is impossible. I struck directly through the human heart. The medical data showed exact placement. Morrison pressed his hand against his bleeding side and managed a grim smile. You hit my kidney, which I have two of, and nicked my liver, which grows back. Congratulations, you've given me the equivalent of a bad bar fight injury. The Zephyrian warriors looked at each other in confusion. Every species they had ever encountered died quickly when vital organs were destroyed. These humans were not only alive, but seemed to be treating their injuries as minor inconveniences. Dr. Park began explaining while she worked on Rodriguez's wound. Humans evolved redundant systems for survival. 2 lungs, 2 kidneys, a liver that regenerates up to 75% of its mass. Our circulatory system has backup pathways that keep blood flowing even when major vessels are damaged. She turned to address the bewildered aliens directly. You destroyed my left lung completely, but I have a right lung that's working fine. Alex here has collateral circulation keeping his heart supplied with blood despite your blade. The human body is designed to keep functioning even when badly damaged. Engineer Hayes, paralyzed from the waist down but with full use of his arms, had managed to connect his emergency beacon to the Zephyrian communication system. Captain, I've sent our location and status to the horizon's edge. The crew knows. We're under attack. Morrison looked around at the circle of crystal warriors and felt his anger growing. These aliens had pretended to be peaceful while planning mass murder. So this was all a setup. The friendly first contact, the cultural exchange, the invitation to your home system. Veltar's crystal features showed what might have been panic. You should be dead. Every species dies when their vital organs are destroyed. How are you still functioning? Because we're not like every other species, Morrison said. Humans are hard to kill. We evolved on a planet where everything was trying to eat us, so our bodies learned to keep working even when badly hurt. Dr. Park had stabilized Rodriguez and was now treating Morrison's wounds. The human body has amazing redundancy. We can lose a kidney, part of our liver, a lung, even survive heart damage that would kill most creatures. Our nervous system has backup pathways, our circulation system has alternate routes, and our healing abilities are remarkable. The Zephyrian warriors tried to regroup for another attack, but the humans had used the time to take defensive positions. Rodriguez, despite having a crystal blade through his chest, provided covering fire while Park worked on the wounded. Hayes used his technical skills to disrupt Zephyrian communications and turn their own lighting system against them. This is fascinating, Park said, as she observed the alien warriors. Look at their structure. They appear to be made of living crystal, but notice how any crack spreads through their entire body. They have no redundant systems at all. Morrison realized what she meant as he watched a Zephyrian warrior stumble after taking a minor hit from Rodriguez's weapon. The small damage was spreading like a crack in glass, causing the alien's entire left arm to become useless. They're the opposite of us, Morrison said. Perfectly efficient, but completely vulnerable. One significant injury and their whole system breaks down. The battle that followed was unlike anything in Zephyrian history. Their warriors were used to quick, clean kills followed by the systematic elimination of entire species. They had never faced opponents who could take lethal damage and continue fighting. Rodriguez, bleeding but functional, moved with professional efficiency despite his injury. His military training had taught him to fight through pain and injury, skills that served him well now. The Zephyrian blade in his chest actually helped stabilize his wound and prevent further bleeding. Dr. Park demonstrated the human ability to multitask under extreme stress. She continued treating injuries while analyzing alien weaknesses and providing tactical advice. Her destroyed lung was painful, but not debilitating thanks to her remaining respiratory capacity. Hayes, though paralyzed below the waist, proved that humans could adapt quickly to new limitations. He used his wheelchair as a mobile command center, coordinating their defense while hacking into Zephyrian systems. His spinal injury, which should have been instantly fatal according to alien understanding, had only affected his lower body mobility. Morrison coordinated their efforts while losing blood from his kidney wound. The injury was serious but not immediately life-threatening thanks to his second kidney and his liver's remarkable healing abilities. He found himself thinking more clearly as the fight progressed, adrenaline overriding pain and injury. The Zephyrians, meanwhile, struggled with the concept of opponents who wouldn't die properly. Their entire combat doctrine was based on precise strikes to vital organs followed by quick victory. Faced with enemies who could absorb terrible damage and keep fighting, they had no backup plan. "Fall back to defensive positions," Sekthar ordered his warriors, but even he sounded uncertain. "Regroup and assess the situation." Dr. Park looked up from treating Morrison's wounds and addressed the alien commander directly. "You made a critical error in your planning. You assumed all species have the same biological vulnerabilities as yours, but humans evolve differently. We're not efficient like you, we're redundant. And that redundancy is exactly what keeps us alive when everything goes wrong." The tide of battle had turned completely. The Zephyrians, master assassins who had eliminated dozens of species, found themselves outfought by opponents who refused to die according to plan. The humans, wounded but far from defeated, pressed their advantage against aliens who had never learned to fight a prolonged battle. Morrison looked at his team and felt pride despite their desperate situation. They were bleeding, hurt, and far from home, but they were alive and fighting. That was the most human thing of all, refusing to give up even when logic said they should be dead. Morrison wiped blood from his eyes and studied the retreating Zephyrian warriors with the calculating gaze of a predator. The aliens had shown their hand too early, revealing themselves as assassins rather than diplomats, and now they faced opponents who understood the real nature of this encounter. "Lisa, what can you tell me about their weak points?" Morrison asked while keeping his weapon trained on the nearest crystal warrior. Dr. Park finished applying a pressure bandage to Rodriguez's chest wound and turned her medical scanner toward the aliens. "Incredible. Their bodies are essentially living crystal matrices, but look at these readings. Any structural damage spreads through their entire system like cracks in glass. They have no redundancy at all." Rodriguez shifted his position carefully, the blade still protruding from his chest but no longer bleeding heavily. "Captain, watch how they move. See that warrior on the left? He took a minor hit to his arm, and now his whole left side is compromised. One good shot to center mass would probably shatter them completely." Engineer Hayes had managed to access the Zephyrian ship's internal systems from his position on the floor. His legs were useless, but his hands moved quickly across his portable interface. "I'm into their network. These beings are fascinating from a technical perspective. Their entire ship operates as an extension of their crystal bodies, but that means they're vulnerable to the same structural weaknesses." The Zephyrian warriors regrouped around Commander Sekthar, their formation now defensive rather than offensive. The aliens, who had been supremely confident assassins moments before, now faced an enemy they didn't understand and couldn't kill according to their proven methods. "How are they still functioning?" Sekthar demanded of his scientists through the communication crystals. "Our intelligence was perfect. We struck vital organs with lethal precision." The reply came back filled with confusion. "Commander, we are analyzing their continued function. It appears these humans have multiple redundant biological systems. The heart we targeted was not their only heart. The lung we destroyed was not their only lung. The organs we damaged were not essential for immediate survival." Morrison heard enough of the alien communication through Hayes's hacking to understand their confusion. They've never encountered a species like us before. Everything they've fought had single points of failure. Dr. Park moved to treat Hayes's spinal injury while maintaining watch on the aliens. From a medical perspective, they're evolutionary perfectionists, maximum efficiency with minimum redundancy. But that perfection makes them incredibly fragile. The human team began their counterattack with methodical precision. Rodriguez, despite his chest wound, provided covering fire that forced the Zephyrian warriors to take defensive positions. His shots were calculated to cause maximum structural damage to their crystal bodies, and each hit sent visible cracks spreading through alien limbs and torsos. Morrison coordinated their assault while managing his own injuries. His kidney damage was painful but not debilitating, and his liver was already beginning its regenerative process. The human body's remarkable healing abilities meant he was actually getting stronger as time passed, not weaker. Hayes turned the alien ship's own systems against its crew. Emergency lighting became strobing weapons that disrupted Zephyrian vision, while atmospheric controls created pressure changes that interfered with their delicate crystal balance. Their perfection is their weakness, Hayes reported. They can't adapt to system modifications the way we can. The battle became a demonstration of two completely different evolutionary approaches. The Zephyrians, with their efficient crystal bodies and perfect assassination techniques, struggled against opponents who could absorb devastating damage and continue fighting. The humans, with their redundant organs and adaptive thinking, turned every alien advantage into a liability. Dr. Park made a critical discovery as she studied the fallen Zephyrian warriors. Look at this. When we damage one part of their body, the structural integrity of the whole organism becomes compromised. But when they damage us, we adapt and work around the injury. Rodriguez demonstrated her point by continuing to fight effectively with a blade through his chest. The wound that should have killed him instantly had become merely another factor to work around. His backup circulatory systems kept him conscious and combat-ready, while his body began healing around the foreign object. Morrison realized they had a unique tactical advantage. They planned for a quick assassination followed by cleanup. They never prepared for a prolonged fight because nothing they've encountered before could survive their initial attack. The Zephyrian formation began to collapse as their warriors fell to human weapons that targeted their crystalline structure. Each alien that went down sent psychological shock through the others, who had never seen their kind defeated in battle. Their assassination techniques were useless against enemies who wouldn't die, and they had no backup combat doctrine. Hayes accessed their cultural database and found confirmation of their fears. Captain, these aliens have eliminated 47 different species using exactly these same methods. Quick strikes to vital organs followed by systematic extermination. We're the first species that survived their opening attack. The revelation energized the human team. They weren't just fighting for their own lives anymore. They were fighting for every species that had fallen to Zephyrian assassination techniques. Morrison felt a cold fury building as he realized how many civilizations had been destroyed by these crystal killers. They're not warriors, Morrison said, as he watched the alien formation continue to deteriorate. They're just very efficient murderers. When their murder techniques don't work, they have nothing left. Dr. Park had moved from treating wounds to analyzing captured Zephyrian equipment. These weapons are designed for surgical precision against known biological targets, but they're useless against opponents who can survive the damage and adapt their tactics. The final phase of the battle was almost anticlimactic. The Zephyrian warriors, faced with enemies they couldn't kill using proven methods, began to retreat toward their emergency escape pods. Their perfect assassination plan had become a chaotic rout, as humans demonstrated that biological redundancy trumped evolutionary efficiency. Rodriguez, still carrying the crystal blade in his chest like a badge of honor, led the pursuit of retreating aliens. They're not used to prey that fights back. Look how they move when they're not in control of the situation. Morrison felt satisfaction as he watched the last Zephyrian warriors flee from opponents they had expected to kill in seconds. The humans were wounded, bloody, and far from home, but they had survived an encounter that had destroyed 47 other species. And, more importantly, they had learned something valuable about both human resilience and alien weakness. The crystal chamber that had been prepared as a slaughter site now belonged to the humans, who stood victorious among the shattered remains of their would-be assassins. The crystal chamber fell silent except for the heavy breathing of the human survivors and the strange ringing sounds made by injured Zephyrian warriors. Morrison stood among the wreckage of alien weapons and shattered crystal bodies, feeling blood still seeping from his kidney wound but knowing he would live to see another day. Dr. Park knelt beside a captured Zephyrian warrior, her medical scanner revealing fascinating and disturbing information about their attackers. Jake, you need to see this data. These beings aren't just assassins, they're evolutionary specialists. Their entire biology is designed for killing other species. Hayes had managed to download massive amounts of information from the Zephyrian ship's database before their retreat. Even paralyzed from the waist down, he worked with focused intensity to decode the alien files. Captain, this is bigger than we thought. Much bigger. Rodriguez carefully pulled the crystal blade from his chest, his face showing pain but not panic. The wound was serious but manageable thanks to human cardiovascular redundancy. Whatever you found, it explains why they were so confident about killing us. They've done this before. Morrison moved to look at Hayes's display screen, his injured side protesting with every step. The information scrolling past was written in Zephyrian symbols, but the translation software was making progress. What he saw made his blood run cold despite his injuries. 47 species, Hayes said quietly. They have detailed files on 47 different intelligent species, all marked as eliminated. The Zephyrians aren't just assassins, they're genocidal specialists. Dr. Park looked up from her scanner with horror in her eyes. Each species file contains complete biological analyses, weak point identification, and assassination protocols. They study their targets, identify single points of failure, then eliminate entire civilizations with surgical precision. The captured Zephyrian warrior made clicking sounds that the translation system interpreted as laughter. You understand. Now soft ones. We are the galaxy's cleaners. When a species becomes numerous enough to threaten the natural order, we remove them. You were to be number 48. Morrison felt rage building alongside his pain. How many billions of lives? How many cultures, technologies, works of art lost because you decided they didn't deserve to exist? Numbers are irrelevant, the alien replied. Efficiency is what matters. Every species we have studied has predictable weaknesses. One heart, one brain, one breathing system. Destroy the vital point and death follows instantly. Until you. Dr. Park made a discovery that changed everything as she analyzed the biological data from dozens of eliminated species. Jake, look at this pattern. Every single species they've killed had exactly what you'd expect from evolutionary efficiency. Single vital organs, minimal redundancy, optimized biological systems. Hayes pulled up comparison data between humans and the 47 dead species. We're the anomaly. Every other intelligent species in their database evolved toward maximum efficiency. We evolved toward maximum survival resilience. Rodriguez, now wearing a pressure bandage over his chest wound, studied the alien weapons scattered around the chamber. Their equipment is designed for surgical strikes against known biological targets, heart stoppers, brain scramblers, lung crushers, all useless against species with backup systems. The revelation was staggering. Humanity wasn't just unique in their resilience, they were apparently the only intelligent species in the galaxy to evolve biological redundancy. Every other civilization had optimized for efficiency and fallen victim to that optimization when the Zephyrians came calling. This explains their confusion, Morrison said, feeling pieces of the puzzle clicking together. They've used the same assassination techniques for thousands of years because they always worked. Every species had single points of failure. Dr. Park began treating Morrison's wounds while her mind raced through the implications. From a medical perspective, it makes sense. Most evolutionary pressures favor efficiency over redundancy. Why have two hearts when one works perfectly? Why maintain backup organs that use energy and resources? Because sometimes the first one gets stabbed by crystal aliens, Rodriguez said grimly, touching his bandaged chest. Our inefficiency saved our lives. Hayes discovered more disturbing information in the alien database. They have a whole classification system for intelligent species. Categories based on how difficult they are to eliminate. Most species are rated as trivial threats requiring minimal effort. Morrison looked at the ratings and felt sick. Entire civilizations reduced to difficulty scores in an assassin's handbook. What about species that fought back or had advanced technology? The Zephyrians adapted their techniques but never changed their basic approach, Hayes replied. Better weapons. More precise targeting but always the same strategy. Find the vital organ, destroy it, watch the target die. The captured alien warrior spoke again, its crystal body flickering with what might have been confusion. Your species makes no evolutionary sense. Why maintain redundant organs that waste energy? Why keep backup systems that serve no purpose? Your design is inefficient and illogical. Dr. Park looked up from bandaging Morrison's kidney wound. That's exactly the point. We didn't evolve for efficiency, we evolved for survival. Earth was a dangerous place with predators, diseases, environmental hazards, and constant threats. Our ancestors who survived were the ones who could take damage and keep going. Morrison realized they had uncovered something that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. We're not just survivors of a Zephyrian attack. We might be the only species in the galaxy that can survive a Zephyrian attack. The implications were enormous. 47 intelligent civilizations had been eliminated because they evolved toward biological perfection. Humans had survived because they evolved toward biological redundancy, the very thing that made humans seem primitive compared to other species had saved them from extinction. Hayes found confirmation in the deeper database files. There are records of other species that showed unusual resistance to standard assassination techniques. But the Zephyrians always found alternative methods, enhanced weapons, different targeting strategies, environmental attacks. But they never encountered biological redundancy on this scale, Dr. Park said. Look at the medical files. Some species had minor backup systems, but nothing approaching human levels. 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, regenerating liver, collateral circulation, distributed nervous system functions. Rodriguez stood up carefully, testing his mobility with the chest wound. So what now? We know they're galaxy-spanning killers. We know we're uniquely suited to fight them, but we're still trapped on their ship with no way home. Morrison felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders, along with the pain from his injuries. Now we survive long enough to get this information back to Earth. If we're the only species that can resist Zephyrian assassination techniques, then we might be the galaxy's only hope of stopping them. The captured alien warrior's crystal body dimmed as if in resignation. You cannot stop us. We have eliminated civilizations across 1,000 star systems. 4 humans with primitive weapons cannot challenge an empire. Morrison looked at his wounded team and felt determination growing stronger than his pain. Maybe not, but 47 civilizations never had the chance to fight back because you killed them too quickly. You just gave us something they never had. Time to learn how to kill you back. 2 months after their escape from the Zephyrian capital, Captain Morrison stood before the assembled leaders of Earth's military command, his side still tender from the kidney wound that had nearly killed him. The scars were permanent reminders of humanity's first encounter with galactic assassins, but they had become symbols of something else entirely, proof that humans could survive what killed every other species in the galaxy. Dr. Park presented her medical findings to a room full of stunned scientists and military officers. Her left lung would never fully recover from the Zephyrian attack, but her research into alien biology had opened entirely new fields of study. The pattern is consistent across all 47 eliminated species. Single vital organs, minimal redundancy, evolutionary optimization for efficiency over survival. Engineer Hayes operated his new hover chair with the same precision he had once used to walk, his paralyzed legs no longer limiting his effectiveness. The spinal injury that should have killed him instantly according to Zephyrian calculations had instead made him a living symbol of human adaptability. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in many ways, but it's all designed around the assumption that their targets have predictable weaknesses. Security Chief Rodriguez wore his scars like medals, the crystal blade wound visible as a pale line across his chest. He had become the leading expert on anti-Zephyrian combat tactics, training new units in techniques that took advantage of human biological resilience. They're not soldiers, they're technicians. When their technical solutions fail, they have no backup plans. The intelligence Hayes had recovered from the Zephyrian database had changed everything humanity thought they knew about the galaxy. The 47 dead civilizations represented thousands of years of systematic genocide. Each species eliminated when they became numerous or advanced enough to be noticed by the crystal killers. Morrison activated the holographic display showing Zephyrian territory spread across dozens of star systems. They're not just scattered assassins. This is a galactic empire built on the systematic elimination of potential competitors. And they're still active. The revelation had triggered the largest military mobilization in human history. Earth's colonies were fortifying their defenses while scientists worked to develop weapons specifically designed to exploit Zephyrian structural weaknesses. But more importantly, humanity had begun reaching out to other species in the galaxy. Dr. Park had discovered something remarkable in the medical data. Signs that some of the eliminated species might have had survivors who escaped Zephyrian attacks. 47 civilizations destroyed, but we're finding evidence of refugee populations scattered throughout the galaxy. Species that went into hiding when the assassins came. The first contact came from the Corvin, reptilian beings whose homeworld had been sterilized 300 years earlier. Their message reached Earth through carefully hidden communication networks, expressing disbelief that any species had survived a direct Zephyrian assault. Morrison personally led the diplomatic mission to establish contact with Corvin survivors living in hidden asteroid colonies. The meeting was emotional as aliens who had spent centuries believing they were alone learned that someone had finally fought back against their destroyers. "Your species did what ours could not," said Elder Corvin Thektar, his scaled face showing wonder. "When the crystal killers struck our hearts, we died. When they struck our breathing organs, we suffocated. How did you survive wounds that would have eliminated our entire species?" Dr. Park explained human biology to the gathered alien survivors, many of whom wept as they realized the simple biological redundancy that could have saved their civilizations. "We have 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, backup circulation systems. What they thought were killing blows were just serious injuries to us." More species began emerging from hiding as word spread through secret networks. The Villani, who had survived by scattering to remote systems after their homeworld was attacked. The Rothmar, who had lived in generation ships for 2 centuries after their cities were destroyed. Each had a similar story: precise attacks on vital organs followed by systematic elimination of their entire civilization. Rodriguez trained the first mixed-species military unit in his new combat doctrines. The Zephyrians expect their targets to die quickly and quietly. When that doesn't happen, they don't know how to respond. We're going to make sure it never happens again. The alliance that formed around Earth grew rapidly as more survivor species made contact. Humanity became the rallying point for civilizations that had spent centuries believing they were doomed to extinction. The human ability to survive Zephyrian assassination attempts made them natural leaders in the growing resistance. Hayes led the technical analysis of captured Zephyrian equipment, working with alien engineers to develop countermeasures. Their weapons are precisely calibrated for specific biological targets, but when those targets have backup systems, the weapons become much less effective. The first major test came when Zephyrian scouts discovered human colony ships moving through their territory. Morrison commanded the defense fleet that met them, leading ships crewed by humans and alien survivors working together for the first time in centuries. The battle was swift and decisive. Zephyrian vessels designed for assassination raids found themselves facing opponents who fought with the desperate efficiency of species that had already survived extinction. Human tactics focused on surviving damage and continuing to fight proved devastating against aliens who expected quick victory or quick defeat. Dr. Park established the Galactic Medical Initiative, sharing human knowledge of biological redundancy with allied species. We can't change the biology that made them vulnerable, but we can develop medical techniques that help them survive injuries that would have killed them before. The captured Zephyrian warrior, who had mocked human inefficiency, became a valuable source of intelligence, though his crystal body continued to show signs of the structural damage he had sustained in battle. "You have disrupted the natural order," he told Morrison during one interrogation session. "Species are meant to evolve toward perfection, not toward crude survival." Morrison looked at the alien through the transparent barrier of his cell. "Maybe that's where you went wrong. You confused efficiency with perfection. We're not perfect, but we're still here and your victims aren't." 2 years after first contact, Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, flagship of the growing Galactic Alliance fleet. His kidney had healed completely, though he would carry the scars forever. Around him worked a crew of humans and aliens united by their shared survival of Zephyrian attacks. Dr. Park's research had led to medical breakthroughs that helped allied species develop their own backup systems through advanced technology. Rodriguez's training programs had created the most effective anti-Zephyrian military force in galactic history. Hayes's technical innovations had produced weapons specifically designed to exploit crystal biology. The galaxy that had once seemed empty of intelligent life was revealing itself to be full of hidden survivors, species that had gone into hiding, rather than face extinction. And at the center of it all were humans, the species too inefficient to die properly when killed. Morrison received the latest intelligence reports showing Zephyrian forces in retreat across multiple sectors. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy's deadliest assassins were learning what it meant to face prey that fought back effectively. The final message in his daily briefing came from Earth Command, informing him that first contact protocols had been updated based on their experiences. Future human diplomats would be required to undergo medical redundancy training and carry advanced life support systems. The galaxy had proven to be a dangerous place, but humans had also proven to be uniquely qualified to survive its dangers. Morrison smiled as he read the closing line of the message. When you absolutely positively need someone eliminated overnight, don't call the Zephyrians. When you need someone who can take a killing blow and keep fighting, call the humans. The galaxy's reputation as humanity's domain was well earned, built on their stubborn refusal to die when murdered by experts.